I'm Femi OK. Today on the stream, the protest movement led by young people in Thailand. Could students be the tipping point for change? I know you have opinions. If you're on YouTube, you can share your opinions with me and the team, and you too can be part of this conversation. Hello guests, good to see you. I am going to say hello to the guests. They will introduce themselves to you. Praveen, introduce yourself to our international audience.
Hi, I'm Prayuth Chan-ocha. I am Associate Professor at the Center for Southeast Asian Studies at Kyoto University in Japan.
Praveen, good to have you. Hello Emily, welcome to the stream. Tell everybody who you are.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Pradichit. I'm the founder and director of Manushaya Foundation, and I am also an international human rights lawyer.
And the final person in our lineup is Emily. Emily, introduce yourself.
I'm actually Tara. My name is Tara.
Tara, excuse me,
Tara.
Okay,
Go
ahead,
no
Tara.
Worries. I'm a Bangkok-based multimedia journalist and producer. I cover politics, current affairs, and I've been closely following the pro-democracy movement and protests.
Thank you so much, Tara. Let me just share this with you, and this is a statement that came in from the education minister just a couple of hours before the start of our show, and he wanted to contribute to our show in some way. This is the education minister in Thailand. He says, "We sympathise with many of the aims of the protest movement, such as the need for constitutional reform, but we must be realistic about the pace of our democratic transition, which will take time." Tara, you've been in the protest, you've been reporting on the protest. Can you explain what the demonstrators, what the protesters want that would potentially take so much time?
Well, right now, there are three main demands for the pro-democracy protests, which is to rewrite the constitution, to dissolve parliament, and for the authorities to stop harassing the people or critics. So, writing the constitution and dissolving the parliament, that in itself might take a while, especially because the parliament right now is set up with 250 junta-appointed senators. So the lay of the land, how the political system, how the government works in Thailand right now, everyone is kind of placed there with people who are already on top. So it might be a little difficult to challenge the current system and the current groups that are in power.
Praveen, I'm just looking at pictures of some of the most recent protests. When you see these young people in Thailand, some of them young, some of them not so young, what do you think and what do you feel?
Well, I mean, as someone who has campaigned for a long time for an open discussion of the issue of the monarchy, and to see young students today coming out for the same purpose of wanting for an immediate moral reform, I'm very excited, I'm thrilled. And I think this also shows that there is sort of a generational gap. What you see on the street today in Bangkok or elsewhere, across the country, they are very different from the predecessor. So in many ways, I think they have become more ambitious. And you know that in Thailand, talking about the issue of the monarchy can be very dangerous. So I mean, my heart really go out for them, for their courage, because I think to be less realistic, if you want to change the political situation in Thailand, and then you have to talk about the most difficult issue of the country, and that is the monarchy. So yeah, I think they are courageous.
Many of our audience will appreciate how difficult it is to talk about the monarchy in Thailand. Do you want to just be very, very candid about what might happen if you do that and the laws surrounding defamation and the monarchy, so everybody who's watching is on the same page?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, I myself, have been charged with lèse majesté. Lèse majesté law basically forbids anyone, who insult the monarchy, and that could put you up in prison for up to 15 years. So I think this lèse majesté law has sort of stand in a way for Thailand to move forward with democratization. You can't have free discussion of the monarchy, and because of that, you won't have democracy. So that's why I have to re-emphasize once again that the fact that the students are on the street today demanding the reform of the monarchy, This is very courageous. And then in many ways, they break down that wall of the discussion of the monarchy in the face of the less majestic law.
Tara, what's the courage that you're seeing on the streets? Go ahead.
I was just going to add to that. I was just saying it's also a time where young people are also super interested in politics, which hasn't necessarily happened in Thailand before. When I was growing up, politics was not something you talked about, on the dinner table or with friends. But now with young people moving to Twitter and with political subjects trending on a daily basis, you can really see that the young people, not only the young people, when you go to the protest, you see that the old people, the elderly, like everyone of all ages are there, but especially online, you can see that engagement with the young people, which I think is very exciting and very new.
If you come back here onto my laptop, you can see some of the social media that Tara has been sharing on Twitter. And some of these pictures are remarkable. And with young people, they're using pop culture in order to get their message across. I also want to speak and bring in Yumyot, who had a particular view about what was driving the protests. Emily, have a listen to him, and then I'd love you to come off the back.
Economic suffering and discrimination plays a large part in driving Thai people to take the streets to protest in the first place. The enforcement of the emergency decree and the lockdown policy affect a whole economic livelihood in the country that depends a lot on foreign tourism and export, causing more than 3 million people to be left unemployed. But the government has been incompetent to deliver the relief to the people who register to the financial support and the unemployment compensation. But the last straw came in July when an Egyptian soldier infected with the COVID-19 was found traveling in Rayong province with the VIP status, while the government kept on telling people not to let their guard down.
So, Emily, what Yumyot was saying was that it was economic frustration and discrimination that was also driving people to protest and ask for change. As a human rights expert, how do you unpack that?
Thailand is very divided when it comes to inequalities. Thailand has been considered the most unequal country in the world by the Credit Suisse, with only 1% of the population detaining the wealth of the country. So, young people are very tired of the inequality that is governing Thailand and the fact that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer under the current military-backed government. And when you look at what is happening with COVID, you will have more than 10,000 people that might lose their job. And if you look at what the government has been doing in terms of providing support to poor families during COVID, they tried to provide 5,000 baht per month to the poorest family, but they were not granting it to everyone. Sex workers were not able to get it. Migrant workers were not able to get it. Indigenous people were not able to get it. So there's a real discrimination in a way that this allocation was provided. And also, Thai people are also very tired of the emergency decree. The more the emergency decree will be extended to give full power to the government, the less there will be tourism coming back to the country and the less economy power will be given back to the country. And when you look at the current situation, the Thai government is considering opening up borders only to rich tourists. So again, the people who will be impacted are always the poorest of the country. As small SMEs and small businesses won't be able to make money. So the consideration of the government when it comes to COVID-19 is really to facilitate the friends, facilitate big hotels, and again, making the rich more rich. So what young people are really asking in Thailand is an end to real inequality. They want the country to be equal. They want real democracy. They want the monarchy to stop governing the country. They want an end to the establishment.
Emily, let me put this to you. This is on YouTube, echoing some of the thoughts that you're just sharing with us. So this is from Sai. Sai says that the Thai young generation wants more security in their future, such as jobs, social benefits, welfare reform, freedom of speech. That is a long list. How does that happen, Emily?
If you look at the way Thailand, I mean, I'm not Thai, but I've been living in Thailand for a long time, and I have my mother's family from Thailand. And there is real inequalities, and there is, now that we are in the 21st century, you have poor families and poor students that are able to get education. But the way that Thailand is being built, it's built on real, it's bipolar. It's bipolarization. You have the establishment, the yellow shirts, the people who are rich, and then you have the poorest. But nowadays, the poorest are getting education. Social media is driving. Young people want equality for everyone. They want to have opportunities for everyone. They want social services for everyone. They don't want it just for the establishment. And what is very shocking is that you have well-educated people who are supportive of the establishment, who don't want things to change, and who are very well aware of inequalities of the country. So that's why the fact that students are leading the way for change, and the fact that students are in the street calling for democracy and calling for free speech, it's because they want a better future for themselves, and they want everybody to be heard. Not only the rich ones, not only the kids of rich ones, not only the establishment, they want everybody to be heard. Kids from Isan want to be heard. Kids from the South
Talking
want to
about
be heard.
everybody wanting to be
Not only
heard,
Bangkok based.
Paveen also wants to be heard. He's leaning in. Paveen,
Yeah.
go
Yeah,
for
I
it.
know. I mean, I just try to be polite, not to intervene. But I think the discussion today, I don't think we should lose track of it, since this is about the request from the student, for the monarchical reform. So I understand that the economic issue is a real issue that Emily had just said. But then how this connect with the student request to see the reform of the monarchy, right? We need to make this kind of connection. I think the young really become frustrated, partly because of COVID. Uh, you have COVID, you don't have a lot of cases of COVID, but yet at the same time, as someone else already said, that this is about the state of emergency. During that time, the economic hardship hit the young really hard. But then what did they see? They see their King Vajiralongkorn having such a good time, in Germany, where he sort of that has become his long-term stay. He only treat Bangkok as a family, I mean a holiday destination, to visit his family. Basically, I think that really add up the frustration of the student. That also link up to the economic hardship, as we discussed earlier. But this is about the responsibility of the monarchy. The student felt that they have been left unattended, by the king, and they just want him to come home and look after them. So I mean, I
And
think
I think
this become one of the key issue that drive the student onto the street.
absolutely. And to go off of that, they actually have made a list. I think it was first introduced or very popularized during the Thammasat protests, when they had a
Yeah,
list of 10
yeah,
actions. And
yeah,
I think it's really also really important to note that they're not trying to demolish the monarchy. They're trying to ask for a
mm,
reform. What they're asking for is more transparency, is more
mm,
accessibility, more like the British royal family. Maybe, the ability to talk about them, to be critical
sure.
about them, to talk about their work, and maybe get a Netflix series in the works, And it's not to destroy the system. It's just to look at the
Yeah.
system and maybe to adapt it to the modern world with the changing times, according to
Let me
what the
just
people
bring
Well,
in.
want. Because
Yeah. Let me just bring in this quote, Tara, because you inspired me. Anon Nampa is one of the protest leaders. He's also a human rights activist as well, and this is what he said about the monarchy and how people want to relate in the monarchy in future.
We must be able to speak about this publicly, speak with respect for the regime and the institution of the monarchy. If we don't discuss it, we will never be able to fix the problem. I say this not for the purpose of demolishing the institution, but I speak so that the institution can exist in the society rightfully, under democracy with the king as head of state.
Tara, carry on.
I think he's exactly right. Like the only way way forward for improvement, to change, better or worse, is discussion. And I think it's really important to have discussions with people you completely. I know in this landscape it might be hard to engage with people you completely disagree with, to hear their point of view and to meet in the middle, because I think communication is really key in moving forward and to figuring things out. And that it applies to the reform of the government and whatever institutions. I think we should be able to talk about it.
Let me put this to you, Paveen. This is on YouTube, so let me put Mbadwa to you. Thank you, Mbadwa, for being on the program. I think the monarchy type of government in Thailand must end. the protesters should continue to put pressure on the government if they really want to see change. Praveen, where do you want to take us?
Well, I mean, going back to what Arnold said earlier, basically to sum up in one sentence, Arnold want the monarchy to be constitutional. I mean, exactly, this is not about abolishing the monarchy. So, and to talk about abolishing the monarchy in itself is a crime in Thailand anyway. Students have moved on from the 3 points that they suggested at the beginning. Now it has become 10 points. And then within this 10 point, basically they're still within the legal framework. What are the 10 points? We cannot go on the list, for 10, but I would pick certain things that would be very interesting. For example,
So
they
these
want
are
the
the
abolition of the
demands,
lessened.
Praveen. You're going
Yeah,
through the demands
yes,
that the students are asking
yes,
for. Yeah,
but
go ahead.
I just only pick a few that would be the highlight for further discussion among the three of us. So one is the abolition of the less majestic law. The other one is the abolition of Article 6 that would allow us, to file complaint against the monarchy. From now on, the monarchy can do wrong because traditionally the monarchy can do no wrong, right? Then we have to abolish the order that allow the king to have his own private army. Then it has to be transparency on his financial asset and status. We have to discuss the Crown Property Bureau. And the last one, which is very important in my opinion, the serious investigation for the abduction and also the killing of dissidents overseas. I have become one of the victims. Luckily, I still survive. So I think these things, they really highlight, what the students want to see. Going back to what Arnold said once again, constitutionalizing the monarchy.
Let me play for you because I think this is important to see in Thailand that not everybody is supporting the students. So there are protests and people who do love the monarchy. Let's have a listen to their thoughts.
I don't care if you talk about politics. You can protest about the government. Go ahead and do so, but do not touch the monarchy. We cannot let that happen. That's why so many of us came out today, and you will see more.
The groups criticise and defame the monarchy and spread misinformation with baseless facts. It's clear that they are attacking the top institution of the country.
Tara, if you could stand back and give us a little snapshot of how people in Thailand view the monarchy. It's difficult because they're not allowed to say anything that's bad anyway, but if you could get a sense of what the feeling is like, what would you say?
Of course. Well, traditionally, the king and the monarchy is almost part of the Thai, it's part of our flag. It's really ingrained in our culture. You see a picture of the king in every store, every household. It's very embedded in our society, our culture. And during the previous king, King Rama IX, was very, very loved by the people. He did a lot of things to improve the lives of the poor. So there was a lot of respect for the monarchy, especially when the Rama IX was around. He was extremely revered, and there was no question about that. When he passed away, people mourned for months. People were crying openly on the streets. So after we transitioned to Rama X, the relationship between the monarchy and the people has changed a little bit because this king is not always in the public eye. He hasn't necessarily done as much work as his dad. So the relationship between how people perceive the king is changing. But that being said, there's also this culture tradition remains intact, and there's also a huge group of people, as you can see on the screen right now, who reveres the monarchy.
Praveen,
and there always have. Sorry, go on.
I just feel like if I don't share Praveen's Facebook page, I'm going to be in trouble. Praveen, you have had several social sites where people feel safe that they can actually talk about the monarchy and maybe changes of the monarchy. If I show this picture here on one of the private pages, can you explain what is going on?
Oh, well, that is my beloved king, King Rama X. So I think Tira has been very diplomatic, but I can understand where that's come from when we talk about the differences between the two kings. But going back to that, in the middle of COVID pandemic, I set up this private Facebook group called the Royalist Marketplace to be a platform for serious discussion about the monarchy. I'll try to make it very brief. So it has gone to become very popular among especially younger generation. And within 4 months, we achieved more than 1 million members. It's sort of why it become popular. I would say that because it's sort of bring together like-minded people. It's very difficult to talk about the monarchy elsewhere, but I think within this group we created a kind of environment where people feel that it more or less can be safe to talk about this thing, especially among us who really understand the need to be very critical of the monarchy. So that's why it's become very popular. And I mean, along the way, it go hand in hand with the protests on the street. Also, a lot of them are younger generation too.
We're almost at the end of the show, but Emily, I know
would
you had
like,
something you wanted to add. Go ahead.
yes. Yeah, I think it's really that what they have highlighted about the monarchy is really important. But I think we should also talk about the youth that are leading the protests, and many of them are not only in Bangkok, and many of them, or they all want, of course, a monarchy that would fit under a democracy, under the constitution. But what we should not forget is also that under this current military-backed government, there is an increasing number of laws that have been passed, cyber laws that have been passed to restrict online freedom. And that's also something that young people want to see stopping. There's a lot of slap cases. There's a lot of laws that are being misused in the name of national security to crack down on human rights activists. And now, right now, when you look at all the arrests that are going on, it's not about 112, it's about 116. They are being charged under sedition charges. And before that, everybody was being charged under the Computer Crime Act for false information. Since COVID, you have 28 people who have been charged under the Computer Crime Act for spreading fake news just because they are critical of the monarchy. So I would say that national security is being used as a tool to crack down on human rights activists. And if you look at Anand, the famous human rights lawyer that is leading also the protest, he's someone from Isan. And I think I would like to talk for people from Isan because my family is also from Isan, and they are not here on the panel. But many of them talk about inequalities, and many of them are driving the youth protest because they want to see an end to inequalities and they want to see an end to privileges and establishment. So I think that's something that we cannot ignore. And a lot of young people in the street in Thailand, not only in Bangkok, but throughout the country, because the youth-led protests are nationwide. Nationwide, it's not just in Bangkok. They are calling for equality. And that's something that we cannot ignore. There's a real inequality gap, and they want a real change. They want real democracy. They want real equality.
Emily, are almost at the end of the show. I want to share this with you because it looks pretty ominous. This is from the Prime Minister of Thailand. This is what he said at the end of August. If each side insists on defeating the other politically, our country will collapse. If that happens, just wait and see. Everyone will live on a fiery land consumed by flames. If that happens, I am at a loss at what to do. I'm just going to go to you very briefly because we're literally in the last minute of the show. Tara, will this student movement, this student-led movement, will it succeed? Can it succeed?
I've been called an optimistic but I believe so. I think Thailand, since the 1932 revolution, we've never had a disruption of the whole system where the bottom rises down and everyone, bottom up benefits. So I think we're due for a real disruption of the system. And I think maybe not in 5, maybe in 10 years, but I think it's also going to take
from Tara
something.
In the last 30 seconds, Praveen, can this movement succeed?
Well, it can, but it's all depend on the public support because we can no longer rely on the parliamentary system, right? And then
it can, but the public has to support it. All right, I'm summarizing because the clock is chasing me. Emily, last line, last thought. Go ahead.
Yes, they will succeed. They will succeed. I'm more hopeful. I don't think them succeeding in 10 years. They are young, they are organized, they are smart, they are fearless. And I think I see them succeeding before in the next 5 years.
All right, wow. All right,
I hope
thank you. Tara, Emily, Praveen, actually ending on an optimistic note. YouTubers, thank you. Excellent conversation online. Appreciate you. I'm Femi OK, signing off from the Stream Home Edition. See you next time. Thanks for watching, everybody.